For all of you out there listening, if you are in the market for any kind of software development needs, check out Studio NoCode. It's our agency that's built on Bubble experts with nearly a decade of experience building all kinds of Bubble apps: marketplace, social network, payroll company, catering business, data room, ad tech, legal tech. We got a little bit of everything. We've seen it all, and that helps us translate all of our knowledge into your app to build the best product for your customers. We built it professionally, we built it to be secure, and we built it to scale. And we're going to do all these things on time and on budget. So if you are looking for help getting off the ground, getting something to market, or anything in between, give us a call or an email or a carrier pigeon or whatever you want. Studio-nocode.com. We'll probably be there.
We use this software because it's the best for your use case. And guess what? We don't care what program you want to use. We'll use the best thing for you. We have often said that at Flywheel, and it does resonate with clients.
Welcome back to This Week in No Code. I'm your host, JJ Englert, here with my co-host, David Pal, and we have another fantastic show for you this week in No Code, plus AI. We're doing a lot of AI these days, but we have an exciting new segment, plus a guest of the week. We're bringing on Eric from Flywheel Studio, one of the premier no-code studios, doing really amazing things. We have a great interview for you all just after our new segment, so stick with us for that. But before we get into that, David, why don't you take it away with the news of the week?
Hi, everyone. Right after we finished recording last week's episode, we came across this news. Snowflake Ventures has invested in Coda's next round of funding and announced a package in Coda to integrate with Snowflake. This is a mark in the sand that Coda has firmly entered into the enterprise space. Snowflake is a data warehousing tool, data lakes and data boats and data ponds and everything data out in the cloud, easy ways to access data. Basically, this integration allows people in the enterprise using Snowflake to build Coda pages and automations alongside all of their data. A great step in pulling everyone up into the enterprise.
Yeah. So Snowflake is leading their next round of investment for Coda. They haven't actually said how much they're investing in yet, but it's going to be at the lead. So it's going to be a significant amount. Another thing that I would say is Snowflake must have saw how much Coda is already being used by enterprises and that needed these features, and that could take more of that share in order for this Snowflake to really be interested, I think. And so I think this is a good indicator for both parties in the sense of Coda is working with some big players. And we know this from Scott, the Coda guy, our friend that we brought on the podcast, talked about some of his enterprise clients that he's working with. Snowflake must have seen all the enterprise use cases that are happening with Coda, saw this match made in heaven. And then from the Coda side, it's like, well, we don't have a data source yet. Anything that we can do lots of data with, our clients need to be able to access lots of data into our graphs and maybe easy to use interface and all that kind of stuff. So let's work together in this way. And it's a big partnership. It's a big collaboration. It seems like they're going to get a big ownership not a big ownership in Coda, but leading their next round. So I'm really excited to see it. And I do think that it's great for both companies.
Yep, absolutely.
How about Adobe coming out with new third-party tools? So Adobe plans to integrate third-party generative AI tools into Premiere Pro, including OpenAI, Sora, Runway ML, and Pika, providing users with flexibility AI model options to enhance their video editing workflows. So essentially, Adobe's like, we're just going to allow you guys to bring all this in just to create the videos that you want when you want to create it. Models are going to get better. Let's support the ecosystem and just allow those models to come in and for you to create with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's interesting. Adobe has to walk a fine line. I'm sure they're being used in Hollywood quite a lot. But Hollywood's saying, well, we don't like AI. Maybe we do. I don't know. We're not quite sure. But Adobe, this huge behemoth in the design, the animation, and video space,
And photo too.
photo, yeah, they're the professional. I don't want to say professional. That's a kind of slander against Canva, but like kind of the big company. They wanted to even get Figma, or I guess last year. Yesterday, there was a podcast that came out interviewing Sam Altman, talking about two different business models, basically, in the generative AI space. Those businesses um, that think OpenAI is going to fall and that they can compete directly on the model quality, and those that are embracing the improvements in the model, knowing that GPT-5 is going to be better, as much better than GPT-4 as GPT-4 was to GPT-3, right? And these models are going to continue to grow, and of course, that's what he's promoting, right? That's what he kind of has to say. Hey, it's going to get better and better and better. But this is one of those business models where they want OpenAI to succeed because the output of using things like Adobe are now that much better. And so I think Adobe's doing the right thing by not just trying to compete with OpenAI, although I think they have their own models as well, things like Firefly Video, which I think they're adding individually. But they want everyone to be able to use what they want. So they're going to be more of a platform than the proprietary source. And I think that's pretty great for them.
Yeah, they're even offering compensation for content creators, where Adobe will offer $120 to photographers and artists for videos showcasing everyday activities and emotions that they can use to train with its new model to for real world content like that. So
Yeah.
if the content creator is willing to add data for Adobe to be able to train with that data, there's incentive there too for content creators. But why don't we stay on this and get into Meta and how they're
Yeah.
introducing AI with creator AI, David?
So Meta decided that they're going to take all of your personal information, turn it into a model, and spit out the girlfriend AI or the creator AI that we've all never wanted. Exactly, an online deep fake of everything I've ever done is now available. And considering I haven't posted on Facebook since I was in college, Meta still thinks I'm a 21-year-old living in New Jersey who likes to drink Natty Light and throw frat parties. So I'm excited to see what my creator thinks I should be saying to things. But Meta has basically seen what some creators have done and what some small medium businesses have been able to put out, these kind of fake girlfriends and fake companions, and said, hey, we can turn this into a business too with all of the data you've already shared with us. And so they basically allow you to then have this automated persona online,
to respond to fans via like inbox messages, comments, stuff like that.
yeah,
So using their own style, using the own things that they've picked up from, this user interacting, they can mimic that more. And I think what they might have seen is that these creators are already turning to tools to do this for them. And instead of having all these external tools coming in, it's like, hey, why don't we just do it for you? We have all the data. We could do
yeah.
it bigger and better for you, and we can retain the control and the quality of such.
Yeah, we'll see if the quality is any good. I think what's interesting is, people have many different personas, although Meta's going to see everything, right? Like what I put, if I was Taylor Swift, which thankfully I'm not, the way I respond to a fan is different than I'm going to respond to a friend, right?
Sure.
And if Meta can see both sides of me, maybe my fan responses start turning more into my friend responses
That's
and
interesting.
backwards.
Yeah.
Maybe there are people out there in politics too that are nasty people that in public say things a different way.
Sure.
And so it'd be interesting to see how it learns over time, right? Are my early posts weighted as much as my
And
recent
also,
posts?
is it saying stuff that you don't want to say?
This
There's a lot of
is
ethical
generally a
stuff
problem with
that
AI for
that is
sure.
coming up
Yeah,
with this,
yeah,
and it's not a new conversation. It's just some of the things that are coming up with all the new capabilities that we can now
yeah,
offer.
exactly. Yeah, I
Um,
don't know. And then with Meta having a strong ad background, it makes you wonder, like, can you start getting these creators to start promoting certain products without them even knowing that they're being promoted? I don't know. They're definitely not gonna not sell that feature. It's definitely there somewhere.
yeah. So there's a lot coming up there, but you're just going to have to stick with us for next week in NoCode to hear the news there to see how this continues to
To
unfold.
see what the legislation comes out and says, don't do this anymore.
Until then, why don't we get into our interview with Eric, where we
Yeah.
talk about building no-code agencies, the business, the sales behind it, the tools involved. So without any further ado, let's bring Eric to the stage.
All right. Well, now a quick break for our first sponsor of This Week in No Code. JJ, who's our sponsor?
Design. Wonderful Chrome extension for Bubble. It converts your Figma designs into Bubble by copying your Figma designs and pasting them into Bubble using their Chrome extension. They're going to save you 5, 10, 20 hours a month in doing this manual, laborious activity of bringing your Figma over to Bubble that you do for every build. But not only that, they also have a pre-built library of components. So if you don't have a designer, but you are looking for beautiful UI components, you can copy those components into your Bubble apps. You got to do it.
And just for our listeners, we have a special invite code and discount that you can take that $25 and even save more. I think it should be way more than $25 and a discount. You'd be crazy if you don't sign up with the link in our episode, in our show notes. Get the Chrome extension, start clicking, start designing, and build beautiful pixel perfect Bubble apps.
Back to the show. So here we are with Eric from Flywheel Studio. Eric, thanks for taking the time to join us today. Would love to learn a little bit about you and how you got to running one of the best no-code agencies today.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. So I've been running Flywheel Studio for 4 years now. My background, I'm going to start way back in the beginning. I started in consulting in the US, 2013, graduated from college, worked at Big Four in Charlotte, North Carolina, mostly financial services. So I come from a really complex, highly regulated tech environment. Did 2 years in the US, and then I moved over to Hong Kong, and I was over there for 5 years as well. In 2020, pure coincidence, not really directly related to COVID, I started Flywheel Studio. I quit consulting entirely. I was already doing and seeing some no-code things before that time. And I thought that this was going to be something that was going to happen for all small, medium-sized businesses, startups, and enterprises. But consulting just wasn't there yet. They follow the money. They're very good at that. There was not enough money there yet, though.
Right.
So
you went from consulting to consulting. Different consulting, right?
Yeah.
A lot of agencies is still consulting in a new shoe.
It's the same thing. It is the exact same thing. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, when people ask about how do you build an agency and stuff, this isn't new what we're doing. The no-code agency thing, the Webflow agency thing, there's nothing new here. This is an old playbook that's been around for 20, 50 years. You can go look at McKinsey, you can look at Accenture, you can look at other agencies out there. We're just doing it with a different set of tools. It's the same thing. When I started, I had no clue what I wanted to do. We were initially doing, our agency was named Automate Intelligently to start with. And it was supposed to just be automation work because that's kind of my background was process improvement. And so we were just thinking, okay, we'll use like Zapier and some other stuff. But I had no idea where I was going to go find these clients. I ended up getting my first clients on Webflow.
Were you a developer or you were just the process and management?
You knew the business.
I studied accounting in college and I cannot write code. I have learned enough to be dangerous thing. I knew what APIs were. I could write maybe some JavaScript if it was going to be the end of my life, but that was it. And I definitely couldn't deploy like a full stack application or anything like that.
Sure.
So you were comfortable with numbers, but ones and zeros weren't the ones we're talking about.
Different numbers entirely.
Different numbers. Got
it. And so I started on Webflow. I'm a terrible designer. I just absolutely atrocious. I'm not the person to be doing that. Very quickly, I realized that there's no way this is going to be successful. I started working on Adalo At that time, there was nothing there. They had a product, but there was no experts program. There was no forum. And we just swept the floor with Adalo for a short period of time and just kind of took over that ecosystem as kind of the number one agency that was doing pretty much all of the big apps that were being built on Adalo.
Did they embrace you? Were you just like vocal and saying, "Hey, we're doing Adalo, we're going to be the best," and they were like, "Great, we need an expert. Here are the leads."
It was a bit of both. I found sometimes, and maybe we can talk about this more. I found that it's kind of hard to work with a lot of no code platforms and that they aren't quite as open passing leads to maybe some of the agencies, at least that I think they should be passing to. I have some opinions on that. They're pretty strong.
Let's talk about it. Let's just hop in. We'll get back to after Adalo. Put a pin in Adalo. Let's just talk about it.
I will tell you. Let me start with this. No code platforms that do not embrace agencies, statistically, in my opinion, perform significantly worse than those that do.
Sure.
I don't think agencies are the end all be all. I don't think that they're the greatest thing ever. But I think that they consistently know the platform well enough to produce good work and evangelize the platform and do work that the platform itself doesn't want to do. If you look at like Webflow, they're the perfect example of this, where agencies have gone and built the most incredible looking websites that then evangelize that platform. Sure. It's totally the agencies doing that. Yeah. But we saw that a lot on Adalo too, where if you look at what hobbyists are doing, I'm not knocking this, by the way, but it's just the nature of the business. When you look at what hobbyists do, they don't produce amazing looking applications or applications that function very well. Therefore, the platform itself doesn't look very good. And that's kind of been one of those things. But anyway, platforms that embrace agencies have a tendency to let in too many agencies. And then you will see them come back on that later. Adalo had to do it. Flutterflow had to do it. Bubble had to do it. They all had issues where they let in all of these unqualified people, and those agencies and those freelancers have turned out to be detrimental to all of them. Yeah. And we've had that. At least just this week alone, and it's not even Wednesday in the US right now. Well, it's Wednesday now, but not a full business day. I've had 3 calls with people who have had applications built by an agency or a freelancer that was unqualified, and they're not happy with their product.
Yeah. Sure.
And so,
or just inexperienced folks getting, representing themselves inappropriately or not the right way, and doing something that they just don't deliver well on.
Yep.
And this is, not a no-code problem, right? Like if you go hire a dev agency or a developer with code, it's maybe even harder because the feedback cycle is longer to get to a product.
Yes.
Do you think the problem for the no-code platform is that they've put their stamp of approval on this agency? The agency underperforms. The client now goes, maybe that's as good as this platform can be, right? Yeah. And then this is what gets promoted as, best in show, but in fact, it's not really good quality. Instead, the platform itself suffers.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit of a self-inflicted wound, and I think Bubble is the only one, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that actually has a real certification now that I've actually heard is difficult to pass, or maybe not the easiest.
Probably
Webflow
a real certification.
Webflow has certifications. Glides has certifications. I don't know if Flutterflow has certifications yet. Zapier does. Airtable doesn't. Yeah, it's like a new thing that's starting to come out, but some of them are not difficult. Some of them, and it's just so it's very new, and maybe they haven't been adapted into like how you get into the agency program yet. Maybe it's separate.
Yeah, I think I have other problems with the Bubble agency platform. But it is nice to see that there are some certifications, although as someone who hires, and we'll talk about what you guys work on as well, we look for Bubble devs. That's not the number one thing I'm looking for. Right? It's great. It's great to have it. I understand why they're doing it at scale, but individually, the certification is not sufficient to really understand, are they an educated developer?
That's kind of my big one, is that I think that there's a lot in no code. I've said this in general. There's an extreme issue with people who have not built real functional applications, who have now given themselves the ability to call themselves no code devs. And
They
that's
haven't
an
managed a
issue.
live application
Yeah.
or with live users, been in that production environment, maybe with
Yeah.
multiple devs. There's so little of them that actually have that experience. It was the
Yeah.
same thing when I was hiring bubble devs to join my team. Like, that's what I was looking for. Like, I didn't want to see it. Could you build an app? That's just assumed that you can build an app. It's
Yeah.
the live production experience, because, if you need to update a database with all live users, we need to make sure that goes right.
Yeah.
It's interesting, as we're saying this, a thought popped into my head that I haven't really thought through before. We look at a lot of these tech stacks as full stack, right? These no code platforms are full stack, which means a single person could build the whole thing, right?
Yes.
In the world of code, as that was being promoted, right? Because remember, in the early days of coding, you would hire an agency. We heard this, that 37 Signals, right, with
Yeah.
Jason Fried. They'd pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a simple website. Like, it wasn't as democratized as it is now, but you needed a team of people to get that done, right? And so you had to naturally gravitate to teams which had hierarchies and experts, and you could learn as you're building these early projects. In the no code space, as a full stack, I can do it all myself. People can be a lonely island just building in a vacuum with no knowledge, no mentorship, and no one to say, hey, this is how you actually
Yeah, no one to
do it.
enforce anything in that way.
Yeah. And that's a weird
Yeah, well, and
nuance to
it's
no code.
also, this is usually the first thing that they're building with no code. And so they got to learn how to build with no code. They got to learn how to be a designer. They need to learn how to work as a team. They need to learn how to be in a production environment. They need to learn database skills. Like, there's so much that you need to learn. And if this is your first time going about it, even if you're 2 to 3 years in, it's still difficult, and you still lack that experience of shipping many apps, working with them in production, all that kind of stuff that is hard to come by.
Yeah.
So, and it's still a young industry.
Now, a quick break for our sponsor of This Week in No Code.
If any of you guys are looking to learn more about Bubble, whether you're a beginner or a professional looking to get certifications and take your skills to the next level, you got to check out No Code Alliance. It's been a personal project of mine for the last 2 to 3 years. I have 5 different courses there, all focusing on Bubble and taking you from zero to pro. And these courses tell you everything you need to know to start earning 6 figures as a Bubble developer. So go to nocodealliance.org, either get started with the beginner course or take our package and go from zero to pro in the next 3 to 6 months, and you won't regret it. That's nocodealliance.org. Back to the show.
Yeah. So Eric, you work with Flutter Flow.
Yeah.
And we can go back through the journey, but while we're on this point of hiring, if they don't have a certification program, what is it that you look for?
This is a great question. We hire developers. I don't hire no code developers anymore. I do not look for that. I hire university graduates with computer science degrees. That's who we've had the best work with.
Yeah.
Our team, and we can talk more about delivery, but when we talk about this, Flywheel, we do things like a traditional development agency. When we run a project, we've got a product manager, project management, design, development. Development is made up of a senior full stack developer. We have developers that have 20 years of development experience from enterprise companies that work on traditional development teams, 15 developers. Those are the people who are signing off on the database. They're reviewing all of the things that are going into that project, all of the requirements, everything like that. We just use traditional developers for that. Our junior developers do most of the end work in Flutterflow. They're the ones in the project day in, day out. We only put one developer on a project at a time so that they're only focused on one thing. And again, most of those people at Flywheel today have traditional development experience. They've built applications in traditional code.
Yeah. And you just feel like that is a well enough balance around this because they have had to learn a little bit of everything and they have that more traditional experience where you can then teach them a no code tool faster, but they still have the ability to
Yeah.
have that background, but also add custom functionality whenever needed.
Yeah. We're not a great evangelist to some degree for the traditional no code space because at least half of our projects are custom code now. Usually in the front end in Flutter Flow, we're using custom map packages. We're building custom components for like real-time database chat applications. Uh, Um, gosh, it's really a whole gamut of things, but it's almost half just traditional code now. So
Okay.
we're a good example of somebody who takes these no code platforms on the front end and adds code. We're not actually a great example anymore of somebody who's just using no code tools by themselves in a traditional no code way.
And why is that? Have you been forced in that wave because you need bigger projects and bigger clients and bigger budgets? Or like, why did you make that decision to go that way?
It the first time it happened is really when we started and we really built a reputation. It was on Adalo,
Okay.
but eventually we realized that we were saying no too many times, and that we were hitting things that we knew clients really did actually need, and weren't things that we were like, hey, this is just a really nice to have. Maybe don't do it. We were saying, okay,
Mhm.
you know what? You actually do need this. And if we stay on this platform, then you are not going to get it. And now this platform is actually detrimental or hurting your business. And
Yeah.
that's when we made that switch. And since then, since we've added the functionality and the team members and the capabilities to go do the custom code, it's just become a no-brainer where it's like, well, then why wouldn't we do it? Right?
Yeah. Right.
Why would we do half this project just so that it's more no code than code if we can just do the code?
Are you
With
finding though that it's like a similar speed that you can kind of operate at that same level and the same margins that you might or something like that?
On average, yes, the price for projects has gone up
Yeah.
within some reason. It
Mhm.
hasn't doubled or anything like that. I would say we do really push clients to use the basic components that are already there.
Sure.
It's just that some projects do have requirements where you can't, you
Sure.
just could never use what's already there. You do have to create something.
Right. Which is, I think, really the benefits is don't reinvent the wheel, but anytime you have something really custom, have the ability to add that custom functionality in there, which is probably why a Flutter Flow works good for you in that sense, is because you can inject code and access that code in many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you'd say the value, the original premise of no code, right? When you talk about why no code exists, is because building a button div is so redundant, right? Like no one wants to rewrite, the button code again,
Mhm.
and you can just copy and paste it. And so you're saying even in this world of code and no code, there is enough value in using some of these existing components, infrastructure, layout, like the platform. There is still enough value in the no code half that it's a complement and not a detriment.
Sure.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
building applications in 2 months that we're seeing traditional development, quote, 6 months for. And that's partially, but look, at the end of the day, I guess I'd love to say that's a flywheel thing and we're just that good.
Mhm.
yeah.
It's definitely really because we are using no code and we're very quick on the
Yeah.
platforms we use. And I think that there's just some things that are part of that speed it up. There's faster testing, easier deployment to the app stores. There's a bunch of features that are built into this, like
Mhm.
automated testing, the ability, the version control, branching, all those are built in. So it kind of just makes things a little bit quicker on average, which adds up over time.
Sure. That it's a
In
nice hybrid. It's a nice in between, you know?
Yeah.
As you start moving from no code into more code and you have developers on the team and the price is going up, do you get a different response from your customers about why not just build with code? Is it the speed? Is it the price? Like, why not 100% code?
I think that that's a really difficult question. Okay. I'll be honest, this answer is not going to be great. In part of this is that I'm not a developer. So I don't see that whole development world and think, oh, that's better. All I see
Right.
is just more complexity. That's literally what I see. And now look, I know developers can go and look. There's been some hot takes on Flutter Flow and how the code works and stuff like that. I read it. I understand it. I didn't know those things before and I didn't care about those things. So I don't care about those things now.
Yeah.
And, when I look at custom code, I feel the same way. I'm just like, that's a lot more complex. Like, why would I go to GitHub and manage this GitHub repository and do all these local deployments and, force
Sure.
my team to go do all these
Download all
local
these
runs and
libraries,
run
etc.
APKs to test
Yeah.
when we can just build a Flutterflow live link and run it on Flutterflow? It seems like that's a great deal to me.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for clients too. They can actually go in their applications and see the logic. Not always going to say that they're
Please
going to
don't touch
understand
it.
it or they can build it, but they can go in and see some of these things. And,
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it is easier to manage those and hand them over to different people on average. And there's kind of a standardized language. If you understand how Flutterflow apps are built and you have a team that works together in a cohesive nature that develops in the same way, you can open up any other app and actually make changes to it. Versus a code base, it's like, well, you got to go understand this entire code base now. And I
Yeah.
think that you can avoid that with Flutterflow.
Yeah,
It makes
interesting.
sense.
You're talking a little bit about the maintenance, but also understanding the code. I'm always curious about hiring developers who don't know a platform versus just hiring people experienced in the platform. One of the things I'm most concerned about is ramp up time. Right. I
Mhm.
imagine that, once someone picks up Bubble, they can hop into any Bubble app and they can figure it out.
Yeah.
But as you're getting these new developers who are college grads who probably have never heard of Flutterflow, maybe they know Flutter, they may not know Flutterflow. They've probably never heard of Adalo or Bubble or other no-code platforms. How do you justify from a P&L perspective at the agency the cost that it'll take to train them? And how does that kind of contract work? Is it we're going to train you, if you leave in 3 months you owe us money? Is it like how do you justify that
We,
switch?
first off, we have a university. I will never name the name. Okay. Not in public, not on Twitter or anything. We have a university that has a Flutterflow program. It is not, I don't think that you're getting a full Flutterflow developer, but as part of their computer science program, they have students go through Flutterflow. And
That's
so at
awesome.
least they have some experience with the
Yeah.
platform. And then we throw them in with a few team members. We have some people who are just amazing at building UI on Flutterflow. So fast, they're doing screens in like 1.5 hours. And then we have our senior developers who are more in charge of standards and how we do all that. In terms of, what does that contract look like? I think that we just have to provide the incentives and guidance for people to want to stay. I don't think I could force them
Yeah.
to if I wanted to. So we do have a probationary period. That's more to make sure that you're going to show up every day. You're going to do good work. You're honest about it. You want to learn. And other than that, though, you've got an employment contract with us. We're a bit different from other agencies. I mean, some people do this too, but everyone that works at Flywheel is full time. They're salaried. We do not have any freelancers. We do not have any contractors. We do not subcontract any work at all. If we do it, it's somebody who works at Flywheel full time. They're not allowed to moonlight either. Full stop. Everyone works here. And so we run a really tight ship, and people that join do not quit. Everyone that is here has been here for a long time. When we add people, you can tell that they're going to be here for a long time too. And we incentivize people properly and accordingly.
So you're willing to take on, the couple of months of learning, getting them up to speed, testing them out before they really, engaging well into your projects on their own.
Yep.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
what is that? Just to wrap up the last question, how long would it take from a college grad? They have a program, so maybe they're a bit more familiar than a dead stop. How long does it take to get someone fully ramped and contributing individually?
I think that it takes 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. All right. That's
three
better
to
than I
four
thought. Yeah.
weeks, and they're kind of running things. I don't think that they're going to be like the end all be all,
Sure.
but we also have a lot of continuous training too. So
Mhm.
every week, all of the Flywheel devs get together and they have a sharing and kind of like experiences workshop together. They go over the new Flutter Flow features, they demo projects, things like that. So we're really focused on making sure people are upskilling at all times.
Okay.
That's great. That's pretty cool. And we didn't finish the journey of how you got from Adalo to where you are now. I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more about what happened, or especially like kind of what is Flywheel now. Tell us about the composition
And
of
if
the
it's only
business.
mobile apps, are you guys doing desktop web apps
Yeah.
too? So
So the one thing I'll say, so I'm going to go back to Adalo here because this is something people ask us all the time. The way we got big is that I would sit in the forums every single day and respond to questions. And I'd record a YouTube video for every response.
Hmm.
And I would go demo something in an Adalo app. And that got us like, I think we probably have 70,000 YouTube views or something. I haven't put any of these out in years, but that got us some of our biggest clients, 6-figure clients on Adalo,
okay.
through those YouTube videos. And that's what made Flywheel Studio, was just responding to those and
And
winning
just showing that
projects
you
through that.
could, you have that proficiency that you could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it brings you more exposure, more views, all that kind of stuff. You're helpful on the forums. There's so many benefits for that.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of time on your part, but
Yeah. Well, when you're starting, what else do you have to do? You
yeah,
know, it's,
Yeah, you're not that
if
busy.
if you don't have projects, I mean, what else are you doing? So I
yeah,
don't know if you could go do that in Flutterflow or Bubble today. It's pretty competitive out there.
Hmm.
But I think for a lot of people, you could find a new platform like a Toddle or maybe even WeWeb or something like that, and really
Mhm.
drive views through that. Eventually, though, we were building an app on on Adalo, hit a limit, knew it was done. It was impossible to go forward. And we said, hey, we went to client. We said, hey, we have to move this to Flutterflow. We did our first Flutterflow project and we never went back to Adalo.
Okay.
Well,
Which, by the way, I love Adalo. Great team. I use it personally. It just, we got to a point where we couldn't be in that position. Today, we are 12 at Flywheel Studio.
Okay.
We have 7 developers, and then we have design, project management, and then we have a COO, a head of product, senior and junior developers.
and I
Um,
guess chief of sales is you.
yeah, I do all the sales.
Yeah.
That's the easiest job, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
um,
Tell that to every other no
I'd
coder.
love to hear the secret.
Yeah.
Make it my easiest job too.
yeah, I don't know. I was born to do sales. I know that. It's the no code part, the coding part is the hard part for me. We do mostly mobile apps that are augmented with web apps. And so
Got it.
typically that's an admin panel on web, but I'd say today probably half to a quarter of our work is web.
And you're still doing it
And
on Flutterflow?
we use WeWeb
Okay.
for a lot of our web projects.
Okay.
So Flywheel also owns a few businesses. Those aren't all completely public, but most of those are web apps, and those are all built on WeWeb.
Okay.
I
Is that
personally don't think
yeah.
Flutterflow is a great web platform unless it's for internal purposes or something you need to spin up very quickly.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from very prominent Flutterflow people. It's the best thing in the world for native mobile, but kind of just stick there with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
But you said you own multiple businesses. Why? Is there a synergy there? Is there advantages there, or it just happened and you kind of just support it in that way?
So outside of no code and I guess this whole code agency world, I'm also a big real estate investor, and we own properties in Michigan, and so we've built some applications for real estate investors and in the real estate space. It's definitely an opportunity to upskill our team when we want to try something new. That's always kind of the first place that we'd go to and say, hey, this is our own product. Let's go dog through this and
Yeah.
go see if we can go build this. Secondly, if there's downtime, then what are we doing with our team members? So pretty transparently, we had a decently slow Q3, Q4.
Hmm.
A lot of clients really pushed off the Q1, Q2 this year. And so we use that time to go build and invest in some of our own businesses.
Yeah, I saw you also were just building like templates and stuff like that and
Yeah.
doing the competitions and like I thought it was also another great way to showcase your abilities of just like, hey, these are some great designs and stuff coming out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to be a good partner to platforms we're on. So we developed, I think, 5 or 8 Flutterflow templates and put them out there in the marketplace.
How can the platform support you? Like you were saying earlier, how platforms might not support agencies, or that the platforms might make mistakes from selecting too many agencies. Like,
Yeah.
what are you looking for in a platform to like bring that perfect marriage together?
So a few things. One is platforms get direct leads and they usually
Mhm.
get the best leads. Okay.
Yep.
So
Okay.
when a Fortune 100 company wants to go use Flutterflow, they do not go to the experts page on Flutterflow. They go to Flutterflow itself. And so Flutterflow coming to experts and working with those experts is really what we want to see, and see opportunities where they're saying, hey, we know that you've been working really hard out there, building applications that are really great. We really love the applications you're doing. Here's a great lead for that.
Hmm.
You kind of see that a bit with like Webflow in the enterprise program. So there's the enterprise ones and then there's the regular ones. Flutterflow has something similar, but it's still very nascent, I think.
Hmm.
Um, the second one is engaging experts for feedback and letting them or using them to improve your kind of roadmap.
Sure.
Adalo did a great job of this a long time ago. They have a PM, Josh Johnson, who's really, really great and open. Um, that's one where they would go to experts and really say, "Hey, what do you want to see that makes it easier to go sell Adalo to your clients?" Because I think also they know Adalo, if somebody goes through the experts, they're going to be building bigger applications on the
Hmm.
platform. And then maybe you should be catering to those, not the forum itself where you have a lot of the freemium hobbyists who might not be paying, but have a very, very loud voice. There's a million of them who want, some simple little features that none of the experts care about.
Sure. Sure. All right. So great leads and, dividing them up fairly in the sense of who the right people are to go there.
Yeah,
Feedback from, or insight into the product, make sure you have a say in, what's being built so you could support your clients better.
exactly.
I assume probably like a priority support for your clients, where if something
Yeah.
does happen, you can send them to like a priority support channel, something like that.
Yeah.
I
Priority
also wish we
support
had.
and
Oh, good.
a
Yep.
single point of contact is really nice.
Single point of
Yeah, that
contact.
would love some better marketing, some successes and wins from a good
Hmm.
platform partner. Hey, here are some examples of very large applications, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I wish we
Yeah.
had at Bubble. I wish we had more. Here are some actual like really cool big things being built, and we live in the indie hacker world a lot, and so
Yeah.
products are small compared to what an enterprise wants to build.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
really hard. That's one of my tasks at software is to find these big use cases, case studies, and to publicize them. But many of them don't want to be public, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like we have clients like Google and Netflix and stuff like that, but like they don't want us to kind of go and say all this stuff in that way.
Everything they're
So
doing. Yeah.
yeah, so that's a hard one. Yes,
Yeah.
I think everybody's trying to do that, but it's hard. Another thing I think that agencies to think about is the affiliate revenue. Like if you bring a new client to the platform, you should earn on that new client in a commission like basis as well.
Yeah. To be honest, actually, I'm a tad bit against that.
Okay,
And I I don't think it's bad, but one thing, I used to work for a Big Four when I was in consulting, and they were very, very big on resale fees,
sure,
reselling and their commissions for recommending certain products because
sure,
they could go and put in a product and that would be like, $10 million of revenue for a software company, right? And so then
yeah,
they might get $1 million from that, which is a very considerable sum for them. The
mm,
second company I worked for in consulting, they didn't have any of that. And it was mostly because of their brand name. They just weren't big enough to command those. But at the same time, they used that as a selling point for clients, saying, look, we do not get paid to recommend you this software. We use this software because it's the best for your use case. And guess what? We don't care what program you want to use. We'll use the best thing for you. We have often said that at Flywheel, and it does resonate with clients.
yeah.
So I don't know. I think a
I could
lot of
see that.
platforms offer it. We actually don't take them up on it.
Okay,
Um, and, I'm not saying that I don't know that it makes a big difference because at the end of the day, we still wouldn't actually go change platforms probably. Uh,
sure,
if there was something better for somebody else, we would just tell them to go to that other person anyway. So I don't know that reselling fees would actually change anything there, but
sure.
we do use that as a selling point that we're not actually getting paid.
Okay, that's
Mhm.
understandable. I assume also you might want access to new beta features before the public to test those, to see what's coming, to see, get familiarize yourself with them,
Yeah.
before it actually hits launch, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What about like community, like expert stuff? Like a lot of platforms, ourselves included, trying to engage with the experts and create more of that community and education. Is there value in that, or just like, hey, we have our own company, we're not quite here for that?
That's a tough question. Because the thing is, I don't do any development anymore.
Sure,
So I actually don't participate in any of the forums. And when I see the features, I get, the newsletters that have all the feature releases and stuff. I understand what they are, but for the most part, I don't use any of them.
sure,
So I think for me, it's important to know that my team members know what the features are and where they can be applied and how they should be using them. And I think to some degree, for somebody like me, the platform saying, hey, we launched this new feature. We'd love if you went and told your clients about this benefit, insert quote here. I'm not saying I need the quote, but conveying where and how they would expect certain features to be used and
great.
use cases is kind of helpful because sometimes, to be honest, I'll see a new feature, and sometimes they can be quite technical. And I'm thinking, I don't know where I would use that. Like, why should I be using that? Or why
Yeah.
would I use this over this? And so having some of that explained is helpful too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about your journey of before no code. We talked about how you got into no code with Adalo and how that kind of segued into Flutter Flow and traditional environment development. What do you see as the future for Flywheel? Like, is this, are you just going to keep growing, growing, growing? Like,
Mhm.
where's the opportunity here that you see that like gets you really excited?
For me, it is building great products with great clients. Full stop.
Hmm.
It's not a size thing. It's not a number of projects. It's not a revenue figure. It's not headcount. I've been doing this for 4 years, and the happiest that we've been in 4 years is when we're building great projects. It doesn't matter when it was two of us or when it was 7 or 13. Those things don't change. You just
Hmm.
want to be building cool stuff with cool people.
Hmm.
And we want to make sure that we're doing that. Most no code agency people need to understand the economics of running an agency in order to do that. You cannot build cool stuff with cool people if you are not making money. And that's,
That
pretty
is
short
true.
sighted. There's a lot that goes into that. I don't want to make it seem like, that you could just show up every day and be like, I do cool things with cool people. A little bit more complex. I think for us, we're very, very happy with the platforms we operate on. There's no changes to that in the near future. We are going to become a little bit more skilled around marketing and a few other things that our clients need help with. We're using a lot of OneSignal today, Revenue Cat, and a few other programs that have really been instrumental in us helping build better projects and better software for clients. We want to get better at those things and make sure that we've always been a one-stop shop where we don't want to be an agency that says, "Hey, we build you the Flutter Flow app, but somebody else has to do this other stuff for you." So we'll continue doing that. My guess is that we might get up to 20 or 25 people, but that's where it stops. It's
Yeah.
not, we're not going to be one of the 50 or 60 person agencies. At that point, we'll just keep raising prices and just get more expensive as demand allows. But I think that there's a very natural um, flywheel, pun
Mhm.
intended, that when you have high enough rates, you can build better products. You can
Hmm.
spend more time on them. You can build better products. That will get you clients that have bigger budgets that allow you to charge higher rates. It is a cyclical cycle that goes up on an up ramp. And we just want to keep doing that. We've been doing that for 4 years now. We just want to keep doing that.
If you don't mind getting into a little bit of pricing, and you don't need to say what your pricing is, but
Yeah.
one, what is like the average app size that you do? And then two, recommendations or suggestions for no code agency owners trying to price their services in a scalable manner
To actually make a profit.
to actually make a
Yeah. To
profit
actually
and
make a
pay
profit.
yourselves. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I would say starting 20,000 on average today is
Okay.
starting. And we have some that get lower than that if clients are actually willing to get skimpy. Usually they're not. So I would say about 20. We have projects that go up to 6 figures though. So it's really requirements.
Yeah.
Um, that's for a phase one for an MVP. And so that's usually a 2 to 3 month project. It could be
Okay.
less, but it's somewhere in that ballpark.
And most of your clients will continue on, or some of your client 50/50, they stop at the MVP and they wait.
It's probably about 60 to 80% will continue on with us in some way, shape, or form. Uh, Um, there are different use cases. Some are build it and walk away because they don't need the ongoing support. They have something that's really quite simple and they can run it on their own. But mostly the type of clients we are working with are building a product. They're getting a first phase out, and then they're going to continue investing in it. We run a product team. We join your company and we're there forever. Now, look, of course, you don't have to use us. You could use somebody else, but on average, people choose to continue using us. And so then we just get into what does a retainer look like to support them at the right level.
Mhm. Okay, so it is once you get past that fixed stage project, then it's like, okay, how do I support you in a reoccurring kind of pricing situation?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
It's,
and
it's
that will come
MRR.
with like a fixed number of hours kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Um, we're playing around. We're changing our pricing a lot right now, to be honest. We had some pretty tough and high pricing um, before, and I think that worked for the clients that we were working with at that point in time. We are probably going to reintroduce an hourly rate. Right now, we don't do almost any hourly work at all. We
Yeah,
refuse it
yeah.
because it's the bane of my existence. I don't
It's
play that game.
hard to context switch back into that just for like an hour or two of work, and then the context switch back out. It
Yeah,
takes a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
We don't do fixed price anymore, but we're not hourly, hire us for 2 hours, hire us for 3 hours. It's if you want half a week, you can get half a week. If you want a whole week, you get a whole week. You
mm,
can't, there's like a buckets of time to
And
avoid
I
that
and
context
and
switching.
and you guys have tried just about everything. Yeah, we've kind of all tried everything, and it's just like
yeah,
I guess a personal thing of like what you're comfortable with at that level.
yeah. I'll say I think hourly is great if you have a low enough hourly rate that clients can really eat that up and you are just starting out. That's kind of an easy way to get started. We used to have a retainer. And I don't remember. I think it was actually like it was $2,000 a month and you got 10 hours of development per month.
Sure.
it just didn't work out very well because because then something that took 20 hours would end up taking 2 months instead of just half a week. And
Right.
why would you want something to take 2 months that could take half a week? That makes me sad. That makes the client sad. Let's do it and get it done with, right? Today we have a maintenance and support package. That's basically access to our team for analytics, for insights, for any application issues, bugs, if APIs change or anything else. It doesn't include feature development. And then we have a half developer. So you can go half time or you can go full time.
Yeah.
All those said, we're probably going to go back and introduce some type of hourly work simply because halftime is too much for some clients and it doesn't make sense to lose them when we imagine that they would go full time later in the future, but they're just not at a point where it makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The one thing I would say though is I will not quote hourly work anymore. I used to do it. I'd say, hey, this is going to be $600. Okay, we'll do it for 600. And then they would scope creep it and then you're delivering $1,800 worth of work for 600, or you bill them for 1,000 and they're like, I thought it was 600. Don't play that game with clients. It's just, it's lose.
That's the fixed price I'm talking about. We got burned a couple times early on.
It's too hard. Development is too hard. There's so much that goes into it and so much that can change. There's so many unknowns.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I've heard you say a few times now, Eric, that you didn't come out and say directly, but you've kind of said it in a few different kinds of ways, is that customer happiness matters, right? Like, the business has to do well, but the customer has to be successful, right? And when you scope down so far that even if you were to hit that delivery on that budget, they're still not happy, it's not worth doing for anyone. Right. No one's going to be having a good time. No one's staying.
Or you go over and the developer is angry because they went over, or you went way under, and then so the client is angry because they way overpaid. It's just like it's a lose-lose.
We are very focused on win-win relationships, and I tell clients this on sales calls. I want to build you a better app so that you can make money, so you can pay me more money.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty open and honest.
Like
that.
And
they're happy. Yeah, of course.
It's a good deal. Of life. Yeah.
That's what they want too. So.
Yeah. You need more features because you're growing so fast. Oh, you need this done. You need that done. Great. Let's all win.
If I'm succeeding, I'm willing to pay for that. I have the money to pay for that. So it makes a lot of sense. As we wrap up here, anything that we haven't hit yet? Any closing thoughts as we work to wrap this up?
I only had one thing that somebody asked me. They said, I posted this on Twitter beforehand, and they said, when should you not use NoCode? I thought that was interesting, but let me ask both of you that first before I answer.
There was a couple months ago, maybe a year ago now, there was a post, I think by Minimum Studio, that came out, was like, here's when not to use Bubble. And there are certain things when you don't use code. You have some really core underlying tech that is so far out there that you can't use code. You're not building an LLM. You're not competing with OpenAI on Bubble. That's just not how it's going to work. The other is when you're competing in a really commoditized product where user interactions and functionality, the microseconds of when you click a button and some interaction happens in a really nice way. Some no-code platforms, it's hard to get those last 10% where you're competing, not even the last 10%, the last 0.5%, and that's where your competition lives, right? If you're competing Trello versus Linear versus Asana, that's the difference, right? It's not, can I build a to-do list? Well, yeah, of course. You're not going to beat Linear doing it that way. And so those are where that I think some of the areas, also picking the right tool for the right project. I'm not building a mobile app on Bubble. Sorry, Bubble. I know you're launching mobile. I'm going to go Flutter Flow, right? Like it does. Pick the right tool. Same reason why you're not using Flutter Flow for web, right? You're using something else.
What I'd say is like, yeah, a lot of what David said, you're not going to build a game with no code tools. I'm also looking for like, what is the end game here? Like, what is your success example? And is no code going to be able to support that success example? And so some success examples are bringing it on prem and doing all and having these security regulations and all that kind of stuff. And so if that's your end goal, maybe it doesn't make sense to get started on no code in the beginning because maybe no code can't get you there. Now, I'm not saying that, there's a long way to get there. And so maybe no code can help you get there quicker, but you would probably have to be okay to the idea of using this to get up and running, define PMF, and then from there ditching it and then going to there to reach your ultimate goal and just be okay with that switch along the way. So I think also just figuring out where you want to go and like what your end game is could help you align with the proper tech stack as well.
Yeah.
And what do you say, Eric?
David, I'm very much on the same page as you. I think the most limiting factor today is going to be interactions and UI things that you're trying to do on the application. Games is obviously like a no-go. I also think, to be honest, social media is one that it doesn't work very well for. Look, if you're trying to make another Twitter, I guess, or another Instagram, but you can't do Reels or you can't do TikTok or Vine without just doing custom code anyway. And then you also do have to take JJ's point in with like, what's the end game here? A lot of our clients come to us and say, look, we want to build this and then we're going to hire a CTO. Are you sure you want to do it in that order? Like you might want the CTO first. If you have the budget for it, you should just go get the CTO first, or because they're going to have such a strong opinion about what this is going to be developed
To
on.
try and rebuild anything once you hire the CTO anyways.
Yeah, you're gonna rush to get this done. We're gonna do it in 3 months, and then you're gonna spend 6 months rebuilding it. If you have the budget, just go get the CTO up front and let them pick what they want, and then go from there. We've seen a lot of examples where, maybe actually I shouldn't say a lot. I think I've seen 2 examples where people have built the product first. And then they've kind of gone, we didn't even want this stack to begin with. We're going to change everything. And it's like, yeah, maybe you could have chosen something different. Now, one of those I know budget wise that wouldn't have worked. So that is what it is. The other one, they said, it got us here faster. It was worth it. So I think both those were okay wins, but those are the areas I'd say no code is still, where you might choose a traditional development team.
Yeah, I had one last week and they reached out to me. They're like, hey, this person was helping us out. They built us an app for our event that's coming up. They ended up building it out in a platform. I don't want to name the platform. And they never looked at the pricing, and we can't afford that pricing with the amount of users that we'd have for this one-day event. It just literally doesn't make sense for us. Can you do anything about this? It's like, I'm sorry, like that's the pricing. They're like, okay, we're just not going to use the app then. And we're just like not going to use it at all because we can't afford it with a pricing model for that platform, for that use case. So like they had this brand new app built just for them and they couldn't end up using it because they couldn't afford the pricing model of the platform. So
it's interesting you mentioned that. That's something where I'm actually writing a full blog post about that, about pricing for these things after, because we're trying to be more transparent with clients about what they can expect to pay, which for us, luckily, is always like incredibly low. We don't have anyone paying almost anything to run and run their applications, but we do want to be more transparent about what those costs are, just so they can build those into their own expectations. And then also ongoing maintenance and development costs. A lot of people don't budget that in. So,
And also, I think in that article, you might have some kind of forecast predictability of saying, is this platform maybe getting ready to change their pricing in the future? And if so, is it volatile because of such? Because you might not know what you're building. That kind of thing. Like pricing's changing a lot right now, right?
Yeah.
We saw kind of Glide totally switch how they were doing their things this year from, different, ICPs, all that kind of stuff. And that really has an impact on that application's built there. And so that might be a factor in it as well. Just like, hey, this platform has identified that they are staying in this track and that they're staying this kind of course. So we feel like it's a relatively safe bet this way, but this platform is priced this way, but there's a lot of uncertainty of where they might go. We feel a little bit more risky because of the pricing in this way, you know?
We use that as a big sales tactic.
Yeah.
I throw
Mhm.
a ton of shade on other platforms because of the tools we use. And I'm able to kind of just say that in a way to clients that just says, you're going to be happier and safer on these platforms, even if it doesn't matter. I definitely use that as a point for sales.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a factor, you know.
Mhm.
It certainly, as you saw when Bubble changed their pricing, how many people had to leave because of such, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, platforms got to make money too. That's understandable, but those changes can cause, changes for your clients as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming in today. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you on
Absolutely.
again later this year, hear more of your progress and everything. Appreciate all that you're doing for the no code industry, all the value that you're sharing, all the information you're putting out there. There's not many players at this level. So it's really important, I think, for those that are at this level to help those below them try to, figure out what
Absolutely.
it takes to get to that level, the education that's required to get there, what we should be thinking about from a pricing and a business and all that kind of stuff that goes into this to help this industry grow and mature, which I think it's doing. Maybe it's not doing it at the speed that we might want it to, but we're definitely getting there. And there's huge opportunity ahead for us all. So thanks for coming in and sharing your knowledge. And for those that don't know you already, can you just tell them where they can find you or learn more about Flywheel?
Flywheel.so, or I think my Twitter handle is at Eric Goins, ErikGoins HQ. And that's on Twitter
Yep.
or X. JJ
Awesome.
David, thank you for having me. Already
Thanks
looking
so
forward to
much.
next time.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think we ended that on a really interesting note. There's so much to be said about how to build a business with no code, how to learn how to build and sell, and his journey on moving from pure no code to no code with code, and then kind of embracing that the evolution of the business. It's great to see. I think he's done wonderful things, and we're gonna have to follow along.
Yeah, I love that he's from a consulting background. You know what I'm so interested about is like, why did he end up choosing this industry? Like he told us that, but like if you can sell and if you have that business acumen, like why are you are in the development agency world, right? And it must be because he sees the opportunity, which there is. There's tons of opportunity, but I was interested that he chose this out of all paths of like I can go in to like, hey, there's huge opportunity ahead. I see, development and then I see the benefits of these no code tools, what they're able to do. I do think that's my, secret weapon when it comes to sales of like, hey, instead of traditional development of 10x, we could do 5x with a hybrid of no code and traditional
Yeah.
development kind of thing, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, he started in automation, right? I think that consulting to Zapier and Make to apps to code.
Yeah.
I think everyone has a little bit of a different journey, and it was cool to see him kind of wander through the forest to figure out what the secret was.
And I just love that he has that background and he's not just a developer because a lot of developers go off and start agencies, right?
Yeah.
Because they're good at developing, but starting an agency is not developing. That's business and that's sales and that's so much more. And there's a lot that comes with that. And I
Yeah.
think this industry, as it continues to mature and expand, we need more leaders like Eric, where they have the chops of the business and the sales and can help show us all how to build these agencies, build these businesses to
Yeah.
be really strong. And to be able to support people, because one of the things that we need as as an industry to really mature is when an Adobe comes to you and says, hey, I need you to use this this platform, but I need to know that you have 5 people that are going to be dedicated to me and that you can offer 6 hour
Yeah.
response 24/7 in support, and if something goes down you have this and then you have this, and it's like a lot of these agencies just can't even handle that. They're not prepared to handle that type of client because they don't even have the personnel, they
Yeah.
don't have the experience, all that kind of stuff. And so there is a world right now where if these bigger clients came to you, you just actually wouldn't be able to support them, right?
Yeah.
And that also creates friction and curbs adoption. And so the more we can get more players further in the space with plenty of staff, plenty of testing, requirements, QAT requirements, production experience, working with larger clients with success stories, the faster we'll see adoption from these bigger clients seeing, okay, I know that there's benefits, but now I actually have a partner that can support me and help me unlock those benefits. Now I can tap in.
Yeah. Yeah. We need more successes like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's up to you all. You heard the lesson. You heard the man. You got all the knowledge from all of our episodes so far. I'm excited to see what you all build. But otherwise, tune in for next week, and we will
see you next week in NoCode.
see you guys.